You are in the belly of a Sherman tank. The air is hot, thick with the smell of diesel oil, sweat, and the metallic tang of fear. Outside, the world is a symphony of violence, the sharp crack of Japanese Nambu machine guns, the deeper boom of your own 75mm cannon, and the constant unnerving tink, tink, tink of bullets spalling off the steel hull just inches from your head. You are buttoned up, peering through a narrow periscope at a nightmare of coral ridges and scorched earth, and directly in your path, sitting on a small rise like a malevolent stone eye, is a concrete bunker. It has a single dark slit for a gun port, and from that slit, death has been pouring out for the last 30 minutes. Your company is pinned down. Your tank is immobilized, its track damaged by a well-aimed anti-tank round. You are a steel coffin, and the enemy is slowly prying at the lid. This is Peleliu, September 1944. An island that was supposed to be secured in days has become a grinding meat grinder that will last for months. The Japanese commander, Colonel Kunio Nakagawa, has abandoned the beachhead defense and instead chosen to fight from an immense, interlocking system of caves and bunkers carved directly into the island's coral ridges. They call it the Umur Pocket. The Marines call it Hell. Conventional tactics are failing. Naval gunfire shatters the surface, but leaves the deep fortifications intact. Flamethrower tanks are vulnerable and few. The advance has stalled. And in the midst of this stalemate, a small crew of men, trapped and desperate, are about to perform an act of such bizarre ingenuity that it will barely be noted in official reports, but will be remembered by them as the moment they stared into the abyss and found a fire extinguisher staring back. The official histories will detail the strategic importance of the Five Sisters, a group of hills that commanded the island's airfield. They will document the staggering casualty rates and the heroism of the 1st Marine Division. But they will likely omit the story of Sergeant Miller and the crew of his Sherman tank, the Idaho, and the desperate gamble they made with a piece of safety equipment. This is the story of how a tool designed to save lives from fire was used to blind the enemy, and in doing so, became a unique symbol of battlefield improvisation born from pure, unadulterated desperation. The situation for Miller's crew was hopeless. Their tank, Idaho, had been leading a push along a coral-strewn draw when the bunker, cleverly concealed and perfectly positioned, had opened fire. The first round had struck the front drive sprocket, snapping the track and immobilizing them. The second had ricocheted off the turret, showering the crew with sparks and a deafening clang. Now, they were a stationary target. The Japanese gunners inside the bunker were in no hurry. They knew the Marines would have to come and get them. For Miller, his driver, his loader, and his co-driver, the world had shrunk to the confines of their hot steel box, waiting for the killing shot. The bunker itself was a masterpiece of defensive engineering. Made of poured concrete and coral rock, it was low to the ground, with a sharply angled front that deflected most direct hits. Its gun port was just a few inches wide, but it offered a devastating field of fire across the entire approach. A Marine rifle squad was pinned down 100 yards behind them, unable to advance or retreat without being cut to pieces. They had tried everything. Mortars had landed uselessly on the thick roof. A bazooka team had been picked off before they could get a clean shot. The bunker was an impasse. Inside the Idaho, the tension was a physical presence. Miller, a tough sergeant from Ohio who'd seen action in the Solomons, was scanning the bunker through his periscope, his mind racing for a solution that didn't exist. His loader, a young private named Rossi from New Jersey, was checking the ammunition, his hands shaking slightly. Rossi was a replacement, fresh from stateside training, and this was his first taste of real combat. It was nothing like the manuals. The driver was trying to fix the track, a futile effort under fire. It was Rossi who saw it first. Tucked into a bracket on the wall of the tank, painted a bright red, was the standard issue CO2 fire extinguisher. It was a mundane object, a piece of required equipment they had all trained with, but never expected to use. It was a symbol of safety in a world that had lost all meaning. "Sarge," Rossi said, his voice barely a whisper over the din. "The extinguisher." Miller didn't look away from his periscope. "What about it?" "It's CO2, Rossi said, the idea forming as he spoke. "It's cold. It makes a cloud. A thick, white cloud. It pushes the air out." Miller finally turned, his eyes locking with Rossi's. The implication hung in the air between them. A crazy, desperate, brilliant thought. The bunker had a gun port, but it must also have ventilation shafts to allow the gun crew to breathe. If they could flood those vents with a massive, non-flammable cloud of CO2, they might be able to disorient the enemy. They might be able to blind them. They might even be able to suffocate them. It was absurd. It was a 1-in-a-million shot. It was the only shot they had. "Get it ready," Miller ordered. His voice was calm, but his mind was calculating the insane logistics of it all. Someone would have to get out of the tank. Someone would have to run across open ground under fire, carrying a clumsy 10-pound metal cylinder. Someone would have to find the ventilation shafts on the bunker, a feature that wasn't visible from their position, and shove the nozzle in. That someone was Rossi. The plan was formed in seconds. Miller would use the tank's .30 caliber bow machine gun to lay down suppressing fire on the bunker's gun port, hoping to keep the enemy's heads down. It wouldn't silence the gun, but it might make them flinch. It would have to be enough. "Rossi, you ready?" Miller asked. Rossi nodded, his face pale but set. He unstrapped the extinguisher. It felt heavier than he remembered. "On my mark," Miller said. He keyed the internal comms. "Driver, co-driver, give me covering fire on the ridge to their left. Keep their heads down." He looked at Rossi. "Go." The hydraulic hiss of the hatch opening was shocking. A sudden breach in their steel sanctuary. A wave of hot, smoke-filled air rushed in. Rossi didn't hesitate. He pushed himself up and out of the turret, landing awkwardly on the coral. The world exploded around him. The machine gun from the bunker opened up, rounds stitching the ground just feet away. Miller opened up with the bow gun, a stream of tracer rounds that sparked against the concrete face of the bunker. "You are Rossi. You are running. Your lungs burn. The fire extinguisher bangs against your leg. Every instinct screams at you to drop, to find cover. But you keep running. 30 yards. 20. The air is thick with bullets. You can feel their passage as they tear through the air, a physical disturbance in the heat. You reach the side of the bunker, the concrete rough against your hands. You're alive. You press yourself against the cool stone, your heart hammering against your ribs. You have to find the vents. You scan the top of the bunker, your eyes wide with terror. And there they are. 2 small, grated openings, almost invisible, designed to draw air through the structure. They are on the far side, exposed to the ridge where the other Japanese positions are. To get to them, you have to expose yourself completely. You take a deep breath. You scramble over the top of the bunker, keeping low. A bullet cracks past your ear, so close you feel the wind. You're at the vents. You drop to your knees, fumbling with the nozzle of the extinguisher. Your hands are sweating, slippery. You shove the metal nozzle into the first grate. You turn the valve. The effect is instantaneous and violent. A deafening high-pressure hiss fills the air as a jet of white, freezing cold CO2 blasts into the bunker. The cloud is so dense, you can't see your own hand in front of your face. The temperature around you plummets. You move to the second vent, and repeat the process, emptying the entire canister. The hissing is a terrifying alien sound in the midst of the gunfire, a sound of pure industrial cold being injected into the heart of the enemy's fortress. Inside the bunker, chaos reigns. The Japanese soldiers, moments before calm and methodical, are thrown into a state of panic. The air is suddenly sucked away, replaced by a blinding, choking fog that is so cold it burns their lungs and skin. They can't see. They can't breathe. Their gun falls silent as they gasp for air, disoriented and terrified by the unseen supernatural attack. The hissing sound is overwhelming, filling the small space and drowning out their commands and their cries. One soldier, a veteran of China, stumbles in the darkness, his rifle clattering to the floor. He claws at his throat, his lungs refusing to draw in the strange, suffocating air. They are being attacked not with fire and steel, but with the absence of air itself. It is a tactic they have no training for, a weapon they cannot comprehend. Rossi, his job done, doesn't wait for a thank you. He scrambles back over the bunker and slides down the far side, running back to the tank as fast as his legs can carry him. He tumbles back into the turret, slamming the hatch shut behind him, gasping for air. He's alive. Miller saw the white cloud pouring from the vents. He saw the machine gun fire from the bunker stop. It was the window he needed. He didn't hesitate. Load, he yelled to the loader. The high explosive round was already in the loader's hands. He rammed it into the breech. The breech block slammed shut. On the way, Miller yelled. He fired. The 75mm cannon roared, the entire tank shuddering with the recoil. The round flew true, striking the front face of the bunker, just below the gun port. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire structure seemed to swell, before exploding outwards in a shower of concrete, steel, and dust. The gun port vanished. The roof collapsed in on itself. The silence that followed was absolute, broken only by the ringing in the crew's ears. The rifle squad behind them, seeing the explosion, surged forward. They took the position without a single shot fired. Inside, they found the Japanese gun crew, dead, not from the explosion, but from asphyxiation, their faces frozen in expressions of shock and confusion. The strange tactic had worked with horrifying efficiency. The story of the fire extinguisher tactic didn't make the war correspondents' reports. It was just one small, bizarre incident in a massive, brutal campaign. But for the crew of the Idaho, it was everything. It was the moment they turned a piece of safety equipment into a weapon of psychological and physiological warfare. It was a testament to the fact that when all conventional options are gone, the human mind, pushed to the brink, can find genius in the most ordinary of objects. The fire extinguisher was not a weapon. It was a tool of preservation, repurposed in the most extreme circumstances imaginable. It didn't just blind the enemy. It represented the blinding flash of ingenuity that can only be born from the darkest desperation. It was a quiet, uncelebrated victory in a battle that offered few, a moment where a few trapped men, armed with nothing but a crazy idea and a red metal canister, refused to die. They didn't just survive the bunker, they outthought it, and in doing so, carved their own small, strange legend into the brutal history of the Pacific War. The act itself became a lesson whispered among tank crews, a reminder that the rulebook was often written in the heat of battle, not in a classroom. It was a micro-history that encapsulated the entire horrifying logic of Paliliu. To survive, you had to become more inventive, more ruthless, and more desperate than an enemy who had already accepted death. The most profound innovations in war are not born in laboratories, but in the desperate, clutch moments of soldiers who have nothing left to lose. If you want to see the true depth of human resilience, look not at the grand strategies, but at the small, brilliant acts of survival that turn the tools of preservation into the keys to victory.